In the last 10 years, there's been a profound interest, specifically within the neuroscientific community, to study how spiritual experiences, religious experiences, how different people's belief in God or universal concept, or even just a positive belief, how that affects the brain. And we're having remarkable, consistent evidence, not only from our own laboratories, but from laboratories around the world, that if you contemplate a positive image of God, if you contemplate on a sacred, positive, spiritual aspect from virtually any religious tradition from around the world, that this is neurologically enhancing in ways that reduce the neurophysiological mechanisms that generate anxiety, depression, irritability, and it simultaneously increases and strengthens a specific part of the brain that creates and generates empathy, compassion, loving kindness, moral decision-making. And it actually makes for a better processing frontal lobe, where consciousness itself is primarily situated.
Now, you've done a lot of work with your colleague Andrew Newberg, who is a neuroradiologist and has become interested in these questions.
Yes.
And you have used as research participants practitioners from many different faith traditions, from Catholic nuns to secular meditators to Buddhist practitioners. Is that correct?
Yes. Andy's first study was with Buddhist practitioners who are focusing on the nature of pure consciousness. And this put his research on the cover of Newsweek. Then he did a study with Franciscan nuns, and they were focusing on feeling closer to God. And the remarkable thing about the study is that we saw the same neurological processes going on. So it turned out it's not about the religion, it's about the depth of the belief itself. If we focus on a sacred belief or a sacred word, or for a secular level, something that is deeply meaningful to your life, and you keep meditating on it for, let's say, 12 minutes per day, in less than 8 weeks, we can begin to see structural and functional changes in the human brain. And it doesn't matter if you're a believer or a disbeliever.
So the specific faith tradition, there isn't a specific neural signal associated with the specific faith tradition. This is really kind of an argument for neuroecumenism, if I could coin a phrase.
I like that. I like that very much.
Neuroecumenism. But across a number of different traditions, you see changes in brain activity that you have hypothesized are correlated with positive health benefits. Is that right?
It's one step above correlation. We're actually seeing it as being like a projective study. We're actually seeing that if you do meditate just a few minutes per day on something that is positive and very valuable to you, that you literally stimulate a part of the brain that suppresses amygdalic activity, that part of your brain that generates irritability, a fight or flight reaction. So it's become so important that it's given birth to a whole new field of neuroscience that's focusing on mindfulness. That all we have to do is sit there and watch. Take, for example, severe anxiety or depression. If you simply sit back in your chair and you take a few deep breaths, and you can yawn, our research focuses on that yawning may be the fastest way to actually relax. And you hold a compassionate thought in your mind, and you keep your body very relaxed, and you just watch the anxious or irritating or depressive thoughts float through your mind, you begin to observe that it's a never-ending cacophony of noise that our frontal lobes make. Negative thoughts and anxious feelings. There's a constant stream that's being generated by the creative processes in our frontal lobes. But you develop what's kind of called a observing self. And as you observe that anxiety and depression, you end up detaching from it. And you actually become less anxious or depressed by doing nothing about it at all. It's counterintuitive, but it's the most effective way to treat severe anxiety and
Mhm.
depression.